St. George Church or Shrine of St. George exists more than 1,000 years, and despite all the wars in the region, St. George exists, but because the wars was destroyed part of St. George sometimes, and for that was restored more than 3 times. St. George Shrine and Church of St. George is very important, not just for Christian family in the Enishke, but in all the region, for all the Christian in Ahmadiyya region, because St. George for them sign of hope, sign of the continuing in the Christian life in the region. For that, St. George for a lot of people is a very important sign for spiritual, for prayer life, for meetings. So they came always to attend the mass, prayer, but it was a very bad situation because all this year, from the beginning of 61 until few years ago, was in bad situation. So we started to do a lot of work on restoration, but and still need to be strong and to continuing for a lot of years. Something written in Aramaic in the wall here is very important about the story of St. George, and we translated that in English and Arabic there. So here it's written that St. George Church was rebuilt 3 times. 3 times. Its mean was destroyed and rebuilt. The last restoration was in the time of Pope Pius X and in the time of Patriarch, Chaldean Patriarch Emmanuel II and Bishop Francis. Here he say in the time the priest name was Georg, in Enishke village, 1912.
بجسدك ودمك تعالى واسكن في قلوبنا تعالى 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 بجسدك ودمك تعالى واسكن في قلوبنا تعالى تعالى تعالى
وقدام خمار مالام بيش متيوم الزن راز شبير
وعلى ولي يسجد له ويمجد الناطق بالأنبياء
كل خون هذا وقبر
So St. George a few years ago was in a very bad situation. The wall, the roof, when the water coming of rain going inside, you know the region, there are a lot of snow, snowing a lot of here. So the snow was stay for many days on the roof. So it was in a very bad situation. So we started to do some restoration to keep St. George in safety. So we did a lot of work. If you see the picture of St. George before, you will see in which situation was. But now thanks God and thanks ICO, especially supported us to doing the roof, covering the roof, to protect the roof from the water and snow. And thanks for Enishke families living in diaspora, they supported us to continue some more. But still need working, especially around of St. George and the roof, to strengthen the foundation and to keep St. George in safety for a lot of years.
بشرتم بالنجاة بالرب معطي الحياة زرعتم الفلوات بالسبح والترتيل تركتم الكل كي تتبعوا الأولاد كبتم الذل كي تنشروا الإنجيل.
So after we finish the first step of restoration, we like to give a new life for St. George. So I asked a Christian painter to painting something special of St. George. So he came here and saw the St. George. He tried to painting and to put the design of St. George inside of painting. And he used the special blessing of Our Lady here in region. So you can see our St. George, Shrine St. George, with the Saint Martyr St. George. And here you can see like melody go outside. So it's mean from this church, the prayers, the voice of prayers coming outside. There we can see a hand came from the heaven to give strength and support for the St. George. And this prayer say in Aramaic, Chaldean, Asya wat margi wargis, la sammani wa aqare, kul aina dbakh mithgawaz, baslawafak mithaddar. It's a very nice prayer. I can say it. Asya wat margi wargis, la sammani wa aqare, kul aina dbakh mithgawaz, بصلة وثخم ثعدى صديق المريا سدويت التقارب واسمة خلب شمية زومتون المرياني
كتاب الشريعة من هيمان وثملية طال النعمة مريم كل كتاب الشريعة من هيمان
And during all the week, a lot of people, not just Christian, there are still also Muslim people coming to visit and to ask some blessing from the Lord by St. George. But now I want to give a lot of thanks, especially for the Austrian Order of St. George, because they supported us to doing the second part, important part of restoration, especially around of St. George and in the roof, to keep St. George for a long time exist like sign of hope. So a lot of thanks for him and for their love and support.